Welcome to Talk to Admissions, and I have our special guest, Jared Austin. You're the Associate Director of Undergraduate Admissions at Trevecca.
I've been here at Trevecca 13 years now and serving as Associate Director for a little over 2.
That's awesome. What's your favorite part of that job?
I really believe in this experience. I feel grateful that I get to sell an experience that I've lived and that I truly believe in.
That's a beautiful place to be. Just kind of as a disclosure, I guess my husband has loved his time. He's the director of golf at Trevecca, men's and women's. And so I have, it's a beautiful campus. I've taken some classes in the MBA program. So I do have some, Trevecca background a little bit, and I appreciate all that you guys do there. So to kind of give reference of where we're coming from, this podcast is sponsored by CAP. And in CAP, we help motivated students gain substantial scholarships. That's our motive through the mastering the ACT. That's the expertise that we bring to them. So some of my questions come from that vantage point of, okay, this kid has a high GPA, maybe a 3.5 or higher. And maybe the ACT is not where that student wants to be quite yet, but they have some insights and we can help them get there. So those are the parents that I work with and that I want to ask questions for them.
We've been in very unusual times in recent recruitment cycles regarding admissions policy. Many higher education institutions conducted an admissions policy pivot when COVID hit.
Yeah.
And so this really changed the way students were preparing for college and were preparing for institutional scholarships. And so I think that's a really key component to touch on as we look at ACT benefits in our current state of higher education. When we're talking about admissions policy, when we're talking about academic scholarship awarding, now, for the first time since I've been affiliated with higher education, a student can work through all admission and financial aid processes solely based on their GPA. Now, granted, the GPA specifically at Trevecca can only take the student so far regarding academic scholarship awarding. And then there are 2 top tiers that can only be reached with a test score. Trevecca will look at those top 2 tiers of academic scholarship awarding based on GPA test score combination from a Superscore point of view. So okay. Trevecca always allows students the opportunity to Superscore for their best score up through March of their senior year via SAT, okay, and up through April of their senior year via ACT.
Okay.
So I do think that it's important to know that things have changed.
Yeah, for sure. We need to know the truth of what this is, because I do hear a lot. Because they're like, so is this kind of a dying art that you're embracing here? And sometimes, like when I'm working with parents, it doesn't make sense. It's like, you don't need an ACT tutor because I don't see the financial gain in it for you. In some of those charts, and we'll link them, but do you have an either or? Now, sometimes with COVID stuff, the GPA does tank. But it's like, hey, I know this stuff. I just don't turn in my homework,
Right.
So sometimes we do run into kids that are like, well, I just, my GPA is like a 2.5, but you know what? I'm pretty good at this ACT thing. Is it an either or situation?
It is not. Okay. So that is a really good point that you make. The GPA is an important variable.
Yeah.
For either path, obviously, for the GPA side, but it's also a component and a combination for the test score side. So I do think when you think about Trevecca specifically, I do think there's a lot of highlights to underscore regarding the continued importance of ACT. You know, when we talk about placement purposes,
Yeah.
when we talk about exemption from remedial work, when we talk about making yourself eligible to apply for the university's full tuition scholarship. And so all those things require a test score. You know, this new pivot that we've all had to embrace via the 2021 recruitment cycle, via the 2020 recruitment cycle, we saw students coming in for orientation, and orientation is a time of fun exploration. You know, you're moving
Yeah.
in, you're meeting people, you're going to events. You know, the orientation schedule is a lot of fun. My point there is we had a lot of students enroll in 2020, 2021 that had never taken the ACT or the SAT due
Yeah.
to COVID, due to the pivot in admissions policy. And these students were required to take placement tests during orientation, right in
Oh,
the middle
yeah.
of a lot of fun activities. And so,
Sure.
you know, I realized that, you know, I want to continue to educate the students on the importance of the ACT for little moments like that, where it's an important box to check to let the university know, you know, where you're scoring in English, where
Right.
you're scoring in math. You know, give the university, you know, the information they need for placement.
What are the benchmarks that you have? Because yeah, you don't want to, if someone's, I mean, unfortunately we have different strengths and weaknesses, and if someone's not what they call college ready, then you do want to seek out a tutor to have those basic skills that you need for that 101 class. What are your benchmarks there?
So regarding the ACT, a student is exempt from remedial work in English with a 19 or higher subject score. A student is exempt from remedial work with a 20 or higher in math. In regards to exemption, a student is exempt from Trevecca's English 1020 Comp 1 with a 28 or higher
Okay. Right.
English subject score. And then when we talk about our STEM students, when we talk about students looking to pursue computer science, biology, nursing, there's some placement involved with math,
Okay.
you know, that requires a higher level of general education math. But there are many benefits for both placement and exemption for students striving for their very best on the ACT.
So like a lot of times some of the students that we're working with, they are taking like their AP English class, and that would take English 101 too. Like that would that be another route that they could not have that English credit?
That is correct. That's a very good point. So for Trevecca, a student scoring a 3, a 4, or a 5 on the AP test, that is college credit that is transferring in at no charge to the student. The only variance there comes within the sciences,
Okay.
particularly for students that are more along the health sciences, the pre-professional umbrella, which features pre-med, pre-vet, dental, pharmacy, etc. Those programs for biology and chemistry, they're requiring a 5.
Okay.
And they are really wanting to do their homework to be good stewards of incoming science majors, in that, as you know, every class is rigorous, every
Right.
class is progressive and sequential, and they just want to
Yeah.
ensure if they're advancing a student past a particular class, that they're really ready. And
Yeah.
so when we talk about the science score on the ACT, a student needs a 23 on the science subject score to take Gen Biology 1 the first semester.
Okay.
Otherwise, that student would take the foundation principles of biology as a lead into biology 1. So again, another important detail for ACT and perhaps timeline and graduating on time, things like that.
Right.
So a lot of importance to continuing to pursue the ACT, even though, again, our office is test optional currently with our
Yeah.
admission policy.
Well, these little details, just like knowing that 23 on the science, if you're 1 point away and the average student is not making a 23 on the science, but with some effort, some focus, they can do that. Many students can do that. So that's not head and shoulders over what can happen, but most people would have to be intentional to get a 23. Not some of the high performers, but the average person. And to know that that is time, that is money, that is, like you said, graduating on time. I love getting this information out there. So what about, let's say I do want to talk about some of your top programs to kind of say, hey, if you're interested in Trevecca, this is what we're known for. So I want to spend some time on that. But staying on the topic of the ACT, are there competitive programs that it's just listen, if you have a higher ACT, you're going to look more attractive to get into this program? Do you have programs like that, or is that really not a factor?
It's not a factor at Trevecca in that regard, but it is a factor for the professors who are very intentional with advising. And again, this goes back to being good stewards of the students who are investing in Trevecca. Let's take, for example, our engineering professors, or in addition to that, our computer science instructors. So these instructors really want to engage the student regarding their level of math competency,
Sure.
as well as their love for math.
Yeah.
As an example,
Sure.
there is so much more math for a computer science major as opposed to an information technology major.
Yeah.
Those are little details that professors want to engage with a student, and the instructors want to see their math score on the ACT, and the professors want to know how they're reacting body language wise when they're talking about a calculus course that's coming down the road.
Right.
So, I think it's good for students to really understand the different layers of subjects within the programs that they're considering. When we talk about our nursing option, for example, nursing is one of the most popular majors that we have.
Okay.
It's a fantastic partnership with Belmont University. So for our nursing majors are a Trevecca student through and through the entire time, but all of their nursing classes are physically at Belmont's campus junior, senior years.
Okay.
So this nursing program is a lockstep 4-year, 8-semester program where every class, every semester is already spoken for.
Okay.
So that's an important component to relay to a prospective student, in that it's not a program that you want to transfer into.
Okay.
Because regardless of how many hours you've achieved, regardless of how some of your credits may be sufficing and equivalency and replacing some of your hours for that class, you're still going to have to fill in all your semesters and be full-time and still be eight semesters because of the lockstep format. So I do think that, there's a competitive component to those programs.
Okay.
Not so much that a student is in or out, but a student is just wanting to be competitive with what's going to be required of them.
Yeah.
From a course perspective, you just really want to understand the math that's required, the science that's required. For the education majors, you really want to understand the volume of general education classes that are required, as an example.
Yeah.
If you're majoring in psychology, your general education pool is 54 hours. If you're majoring in elementary education, your general education pool is 64 hours. Significant difference there, worth noting. Professors, really strive to make sure the student is understanding their intended pathway and make sure in a very loving way that it's realistic for the student as well.
Right.
Trevecca is keenly aware of how important year one is. And so they've implemented a lot of personal touch student resource support through the Center for Leadership Calling and Service, where we have a first semester link group and a year one mentoring program that really strives to engage that 17, 18, 19-year-old who is out there on their own for the first time, exploring these early days of young adulthood.
Learning to do laundry.
So, yes, all of that. And so our mentoring team, our year one link group team, they're striving to just stay connected to the student so that if there's any signs of a student falling off the appropriate path of, sleeping through class, missing chapel, concerning grades on the GPA, mental health, financial concerns. If you miss class and in the morning and you're at lunch later that day, there's high probability that Professor so-and-so is going to say, "Hey, Cynthia, we missed you in class today," and that's just something you would not find at, a larger state school or a community college. Nothing wrong with either one of those paths, but, at Trevecca, we really feel like students feel a social and spiritual and professional return on investment through that intentional follow through year one.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me returning back to some of your competitive scholarships. How many of those how many are dispersed each year, and does that vary from year to year, that sort of thing? So kind of switch gears again.
Yes. So we have one significant competitive scholarship regarding full tuition. And there are currently 2 scholarship days for the 22 recruitment cycle. And then beginning for the 23 cycle, there will only be 1 scholarship day. But we've bounced back and forth in recent years regarding our scholarship day, whether it be in November or whether it be in February. November seems to be too early for students. And February, we just kept running into weather.
Okay.
And so it was just problematic for bringing these high achieving students onto campus for a campus-wide all hands on deck scholarship day, big showcase day for the university. So moving forward, our scholarship day is going to be on the first Friday in March. And so for our 2022 prospective students listening who may consider Trevecca, who may see that, oh, hey, I missed out on the November scholarship full tuition opportunity, you've got another chance. There's another one coming on March 3rd, 2022, and we'd love for you to get in on that. It requires a minimum of a 29 ACT, either individual, composite, or Superscore, and a 3.5 GPA. It's going to be an exciting time to have our best and brightest students on campus, and they'll interview with a panel of 4 of the hierarchy of the institution. And so we're just super excited for their interest. So that highlights our most competitive, important scholarship. The other scholarships and endowments and grants that we offer, I wouldn't say that they are competitive, but I would say they are time sensitive.
Okay.
And so for students who who know they're going to have demonstrated financial need based on the FAFSA, or for students who know they're going to have financial concerns, to make the Trevecca experience work, then we strongly encourage them to always work on that FAFSA right when it opens up October 1st.
Okay.
Because our board of trustees here at the university, they always vote and confirm the new cost sheet during homecoming, the first weekend in November. So for families that have need or concern, for them to be able to get in amongst the first conversations with the scholarship committee through admissions for our endowments and grants.
Okay.
It's very important because,
okay.
Last year we were very focused on a bounce back year. 2020 was a difficult year for us for obvious reasons. And we were very aggressive with our awarding. November, December, January, February, the majority of our special endowments and scholarships were gone by March.
Okay.
And that was unique in that normally those are all awarded and gone by May. Regarding the ACT, a lot of these endowments that are renewable up to 4 years, 8 semesters require an ACT. So that's a very important component that, yes, we are test optional. And yes, a lot of our institutional aid is awarded based on GPA, but that next level kind of finish line financial aid conversation, a lot of it requires an ACT.
Okay.
So very important component to continue striving on the ACT regarding Trevecca endowments.
Like if someone's like, I'm going to Trevecca, I know that's my number one school. They should do the FAFSA as soon as it comes out and apply for Trevecca before November 1st.
The order would be for, let's say, a rising senior. So a student who has just completed his or her junior year.
Yeah.
The opening date for a rising senior to apply for admission free via trevecca.edu is July 1st.
Okay.
So ideally, we love to see all of our prospective students apply in July or August, because we know those are our best leads, our strongest prospects.
Sure.
And then September, when they're back into that senior year, we love to see their partial 6 semester transcript come through.
Okay.
At that time, we also love to see any and all ACT, SAT attempts, and we begin admitting students on September the 15th of each enrollment cycle. So the goal is apply, admitted, and then by October 1, that again is the opening date for FAFSA. And so for all of our 2022 prospective students, they needed their 2020 tax returns as a family to complete that FAFSA.
Yeah.
And so students completing that FAFSA within the first 3 weeks of October are seeing their FAFSA link up right on time when we have what we need in terms of information regarding what we're up against with the cost sheet.
Okay.
So applied, admitted, FAFSA linked, cost sheet comes down. We're off and running in November to put together the best package we can for our students who are early in the process. Trevecca is not set up on what many prospective students know as early decision. We are set up on rolling admission. And so what that means is we admit students weekly after September 15th.
Okay. You've got so many great things going on at Trevecca. It's an exciting time. You're growing. Beautiful campus.
I agree.
What is one of the number one questions that you get? And then the question I want to end with is kind of like, what's maybe in your facilities, things like that. What are some exciting things that are happening or a program you want to highlight?
I think the number one question really stems from affordability. I think by the time a student ends up applying to Trevecca, they've done their homework enough to know that we are making their short list. We are fitting into this realm of what they've created to be the college experience that they are seeking. And so for a lot of students, that entails keywords such as Nashville, such as Christian, such as community, such as, small classroom size. So when a student is really set on, okay, all those boxes are checked with Trevecca, now here comes the next question. Can I afford this? A lot of layers to answering that question. But the biggest thing I tell the student is follow through. If you communicate with me, if you follow through on all processes and all inquiries that I have for you, so that I can be your best advocate through the scholarship committee here, we're going to do our very best to meet you in the middle and work on price point and work on being affordable. Because, my goal is always, if a student says, well, hey, I've got it narrowed down to 3 and you're one of them, I want to eliminate the financial aid piece of it so that the student can really focus on what's best for you. What's going to be your best fit? Nobody's going to win if we're not truly your best fit as a whole. And so I think that's the number one question, and that's how we try to answer that. And then the second question, Trevecca has these floor pop-up billboards all over campus, highlighting our construction. Our future is literally going up all around us. We've got 3 major projects in the works right now. We've got a new dorm residential facility that's going up on campus. It's set to open up in the fall of 2023. This is very exciting for prospective students. We broke ground on that last Friday during homecoming. In the fall of 2022, our STEM school will be opening, the new health science building. So this is exciting in that all of our sciences are now coming together under one roof, under one dean. Science, engineering, mathematics, all of our exercise science majors are now kind of moving away from the athletics facility and joining our Department of Math and Science to give all of those majors a more interdisciplinary advantage for classes. And then let's talk about food, right? That's important.
It affects everybody.
Yeah, food. So our new student center, our newly renovated cafeteria and dining hall is set to open in August of 2022 as well. So we have been so grateful for how well our current students have handled all the construction. These are 3 projects that leadership has envisioned for many years.
Yeah.
And to see them growing around us and to see an end completion date in sight, it's an incredible blessing.
It is special. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm partial. You guys have my heart. And I actually researched the EDS degree, and I looked at 15 different schools. And as far as like the convenience, but more than that, just the a lot in the education world, a lot of people go to Trevecca as a resource. And the EDS degree was very competitive. Like it was very financially, it was one of the top choices. Along with other reasons. So, these kids aren't ready for their EDS yet, but yeah, to just speak to the financial part, you do think Christian college, you think private college, and, it can think like, hey, how can they keep up with these other schools? But it's certainly worth looking into because it can perhaps surprise you
Thank you.
Any last thoughts?
No, just thank you for the opportunity to hop on here and talk about Trevecca. And, I wish you the best with your venture. And, it's great to meet you. And I work with all of our athletes here. And so the coaches keep me busy with all their recruits. And Coach Ed is one of my favorites, truly. So, as I said, anything I can do to help him, I'm on board. Sign me up.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. I'm a person of prayer. Jared, can I pray before we go?
Absolutely.
God, I thank you for the resources that came through this. And I pray that it'll help people as they consider all the things. It's such a big time in these students' lives, God. So I pray a blessing over Trevecca and their leadership. And thank you for Dr. Boone and his leadership, and let your hand be upon him. Bless Jared during this time of transition as people are trying to navigate. What does it mean in the midst of the COVID stuff and as things change in our society? So I pray that you'll bless Jared and the students and parents listening. God, I pray that the nuggets that they need, they'll be able to apply and be blessed according to the knowledge that came forth. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you again for your time. You're the first episode, so you are special, Jared.
Okay. All right. I feel special. Thank you so much.